Still no response to Hill's.
Hi, I'm Nick Cook.
Hi, I'm Steve Hammond.
And we're the two reprobates responsible for this, along with quite a few other people, but I guess we're the only ones here talking about it today.
We can't allow another.
We'll try not to bore you too much.
But it's between them and the planet. Full power to shields.
Aye, sir.
So, let's talk a little bit about,
What is happening?
well, you know, I have no idea. I just turn up and,
Well,
Do
what we're
things.
seeing at the moment, I mean, this is a classic cold opening. Throw you right into the heart of the action before we get to the title sequence.
oh, so you've got to go and be clever now and actually talk in an intelligent fashion.
Yeah, I only claimed I didn't rehearse this.
Yeah, I didn't rehearse at all. I guess this is the first thing we did that wasn't written by myself, with input from Steve, I guess. Brian Matthews, who'd written for Hidden Frontier,
Helm 210 Mark 12.
kind of pitched this script to us, and we just kind of went with it. It seemed a good idea at the time.
We're also seeing, it's kind of an evolution of the green screen work that we're doing, because we're making more use of depth of field there, real depth of field, rather than just the stuff that we faked.
Yeah, we were quite lucky. Alan Christensen, who works for the Abbey Theatre, managed to get us access to there, and we were able to use areas in there, so we had a lot more space to work with. Unfortunately, we still didn't do a great job of lighting the green screen, so as per usual, whoever was doing the keying had a fun time trying to sort it all out. Oh, here's the big reveal, and there's Giles!
Hi, Giles.
Hi, Giles.
Oh, he's not looking too happy.
He's not looking too happy. I can't remember what happened first, whether we got Giles on board before we shot this.
So how did you
Well, obviously we had Giles on board before we
find
shot it.
Giles?
I found him because he was actually quite a well-known guy. I think I'd first seen him. He was doing links for the Sci-Fi Channel for something to do with Star Trek. It turned out I had a website. I just got in touch with him and said, "Hey, do you fancy doing a fan film?" He said, "Yes, absolutely. I would fancy doing a fan." That's a really bad impersonation of Giles. I'm not going to do that again. Yeah, I can't remember if I approached him before we had the script for this or after. I think I'd seen him and thought, hey, it'd be great to do a Picard episode if this guy was interested. And I think I did actually approach him before Brian wrote this. But I may be remembering things completely wrong. Oh, Nick Beckwith, the other Nick. There's too many people in this show that have got the same first name.
I do like the new credits.
John Carling did the credits, actually. He's also the guy that did all the keying on this episode. John was really kind of a godsend because he brought quite a lot of actual knowledge of effects, and he's trained as an effects artist, so he brought some skills to the table that I guess we hadn't really had access to, and some software as well, and he did a great job. I mean, I think this is quite an original title sequence, really. Yes.
And the story continues.
Under the circumstances.
Another nice effect shot from Leandro.
Yeah, this is the first time I've watched this for quite a considerable time, and seeing it, we're watching it on the TV at the moment. It looks really nice.
It does. Some scenes look better. This is actually quite a low resolution copy we're watching. I can't remember what resolution you rendered this out in. It's something like 320 by.
No, I think it was about 500 and odd.
Okay. Yeah,
by
that
whatever the
sounds about
vertical
right.
ratio was. This scene, I actually edited all of this, and this scene was quite tricky.
We did a lot of coverage for this, and the angles were pretty tight. I mean, we're working the space we're working in is ridiculously small. This is actually our dining area in our kitchen. I don't think we'd ever planned to have this many walls built up for it, but I think Rick Forster, who'd originally interviewed us for the Sci-Fi Channel sometime before this and had offered to come up and help on a shoot, we said, yeah, come on up, Rick, that'd be great. I think all these walls, was it Rick's idea to put all the walls up and shoot?
I can't remember
because
whose idea it was.
I don't think we'd planned to do this.
I
put
do
all the walls
remember
up.
we decided to shoot it from two angles, the original angle and then the reverse, which basically meant turning parts of the set halfway around.
That's
It
right.
worked out quite well in the end, but
It
matching up lighting and matching up expressions.
I think it worked better in this scene and in the other crew quarters scene later on
This
with
was less ambitious.
This scene looks. I think this scene looks really good though. I mean, I love the shadows in this scene, and this is the first time we really actually get to see Lynn really being the XO here, and then we don't really see her again for the rest of the episode, which is kind of disappointing. In fact, the reason originally when Brian wrote the script, one of the reasons he wrote Lynn out is one, he didn't really have a handle on the character, I think, and he said, look, let's get her out of the way early on. And originally he pitched that in the first draft, Picard would be the acting first officer, which I'd said I didn't really think that would work, and we kind of agreed that Picard would just come on as he was in command of the mission and basically spend the entire time bossing Hunter around. And I actually think
Which
that...
is always good to see.
Which is always good to see. And I think that actually works out better, because from that point of view, I think it would have been far too awkward having... we go from one XO who's, a stickler for rules and giving Hunter a hard time to an acting XO who's also a captain and giving Hunter a hard time.
Yeah.
I think it would have been too much of the same. Whereas this way, it's they're peers and they're not getting on, and I think it works better from that point of view.
I mean, what we're seeing here in this scene, directing it, we were a lot more focused on limiting the angles.
Now, this scene is actually composite here, sorry. Because when we shot it originally, Lucy was a lot closer. When John keyed it, he moved her back.
Yeah, I think that was one of my suggestions, actually.
It may well have been, yeah.
Because, we had more space to work with, but because Lucy was, separate from the rest of them, only green screen separating her from the right-hand side of the set, digitally, you can do some manipulations.
You refuse to identify yourself. You fired on a planet under my protection.
So the first major confrontation between Picard and Hunter, and we get a little bit into Hunter's issues with how he became captain, and that comes back to haunt him and bite him in the ass a little bit here. It's a nice little scene.
She deserved better.
You weren't there.
I read the report.
It really just establishes the tone of things. Again, this scene has largely been ADR'd. We had quite a lot of problems with sound on this. I think this was the first time that we had somebody else recording sound, and the person recording sound wasn't the same person that was actually shooting it. So normally Steve would be recording sound while he's filming as well and monitoring it on the headset. This time it's someone different. A bit of a learning curve, and we made a few mistakes on that one, with the result that most of our dialogue track was pretty much unusable. We also had a problem with a loose connection and some interference on a lot of the bridge scenes, which required most of them to be ADR'd.
Business as usual, sound quality.
Business as usual. I mean, highly recommend, if you're doing this kind of thing, record your sound separately, but make sure you have someone monitoring what you're recording and that your levels are right, you don't have interference. I mean, I remember on one of the bridge scenes, I think it was Steve Passwood said, there's some interference on this, and I kind of had a quick listen and said, it'll do, we don't have much choice, let's just do it. But, hey, Glendale again.
Now, this was the only scene I didn't direct.
That's right, Rick Forster shot this.
I ran out of steam. This was the most intense
filming
filming period that we'd ever had. It was like 3 days.
Yeah.
Just constantly going, and at the end of the second day, I'm like, I need some sleep.
It was
and
hard
in fact,
going.
I think you actually ordered me off.
I pretty much did. Interestingly, this scene, we were a little bit late leaving on the morning. I think Giles had been out partying the night before, and he was a little bit hungover the next morning. We let him sleep in. But this is the same cave we used in Transitions and Lamentations. Obviously, we shot it a little bit differently here. Rick shot most of this handheld, which was kind of a new thing for us. I think it turned out pretty well. Again, we've ended up ADRing most of this. The sound levels were again too low on this, which was a big problem because obviously you can raise the volume, but then you get a lot of hiss and background noise. You can remove the hiss and the background noise, but one of the problems we often have is very tinny sound from doing noise removal. So I think we decided early on we were just going to have to bite the bullet and ADR this. Obviously, because Giles doesn't live locally, that created quite a problem getting his lines in the camera, in the suite, whatever. It was actually a friend of mine in London, Bruce Wilson, who eventually did that. Now this scene is interesting because we shot this about 2 years later, and if you look, I'm actually about a stone and a half lighter here than I was in the rest of the footage. Just wanted to get that in, Started exercising, lost weight.
Also a new technique, the slow zoom in, because we were using a camera with a manual zoom ring, which is great. And I thought, well, let's try this. It's
I love this scene.
A single angle, and just slowly push in on that.
I actually think this is one of my best scenes in Intrepid.
In the whole of Intrepid?
Yeah. I'm not over milking it.
Just milking it enough.
Just milking it enough.
On my way.
I think one of the things we see in Stone Unturned is Hunter matures a little bit, and actually when I did some of the ADR work, I toned down some of his lines a little bit. I do often think Hunter's a little bit too on the snidey, slightly immature side sometimes. I tried to tone that down a little bit with the ADR.
And I've never heard about this because...
One of the things I was quite happy with was the pacing. It's hard to know how it's going to work, you know, starting off editing, just a bit here, a bit there, but when it's all put together, and, you know, any time that I've started watching it, you know, I end up watching it all the way through. I'm very much a fan of the slow build-up. You know, opening aside.
I think we both kind of agree on that, yeah.
You know, the action towards the end is where it's supposed to be.
I quite like the story, and because it is more of a puzzle box type story. It's more of a quintessential Star Trek story.
But we get a really nice character, a couple of character moments
Reviewing the log,
here.
with the runabout, and there are 2 points of interest.
David's makeup was awful in this episode.
Set to self-detonate.
So he's saying that for the record. I mean, really, we should have done a makeup test on this. We've never really mastered the makeup side of things. We've had advice from a few people, but I don't think we've ever really managed to put it into play. When and if we shoot more Intrepid, I suspect you may actually see we won't see the character of Sakaris again. But, you know, we'll see. We've had some discussions with David about another character.
We do play down a lot of what we're doing, you know, makeup there, but I think one of the things that really works here is the green screened bridge set. We've been going back and forward, you know, quite often over the years about, you know, should we have a physical set, a CG set, a combination, you know, set extension. Here it's purely CG against a green screen, and yeah, it was quite tricky for the poor compositors,
Poor old John.
but it works.
Well, I
think it looks really good.
Jeff Hayes actually built this bridge set years ago. I mean, crumbs, for Heavy Lies the Crown for us, 7 years ago?
Yeah,
and it still holds up pretty well.
There hasn't been anything added to that since, I'm sure.
No, nothing added. The only thing different was John created a different view screen for us and animated it. That was the only thing different. But otherwise, it's the same set, the same virtual set, and I think it holds up pretty well.
All I know is that I'm his assistant.
The MSD animatic in the back, well, it's not animated here, but the MSD in the background. I'm trying to remember the name of the guy who did that for us.
So apologies if you're listening in. All these people that we're referring to as that guy, someone.
I really must look. His name is in the credits. He is in the credits. Now I love this lab scene. I love the way this is set up. I love the lighted panel and that kind of thing. This was a bit of a animated scene between Hunter and Picard. Again, pretty much ADR'd that. Interestingly enough, there was a line in this about intergalactic conflict. It was in the original script. We quite a disagreement about that.
You know, to put it in the picture, I hate the word intergalactic. It is a genuine term, but in the media, it just gets used as a general. It's in space, and it stands out for me every time you hear it. I cannot abide it.
I can't disagree with that. But I also come from the school of hating messing with other people's dialogue, because I hate when people mess with my dialogue. So I was a bit reluctant to change it, and I was a bit resistant to that. And we did deliver it as intergalactic, and to this day I regret doing that. We actually changed it in the ADR to, I think we eventually went with interstellar. It worked. Unfortunately, my back's to the camera, so you can't really see it. But yeah, it was one of those things that we disagreed over that really there was no reason to disagree over. I think I dug my heels in for no particular reason on that.
You seem strangely disinterested in all of this.
This scene here, you get to see a little bit more of the chemistry between Hunter, Cade and Sakaris here. And certainly I think we call back to, in Heavy Lies of Crown, there's this nice scene in the cargo bay between Cade and Sakaris. I've always liked that scene. And well, neither David or Lucy would probably call themselves actors, but that's a scene that I've always felt they both did very well with, and they were very natural.
That scene in the cargo bay, that's got a special place in my heart, because that was the first one finished.
It's a lovely little scene, and the two of them sell it very well. And I think we call back to that a little bit here. In the relationship between these two characters is very obvious. It's just there's just a couple of asides between them, and think, it calls back to that kind of tone of the relationship between the two of them.
On a more technical note, again, filmed this from the side.
On my way.
You know, so we see, you know, the right hand side of the bridge. You know, previously it's been the back. Limiting the use of the camera angles, but choosing them well, it means that we get a better sense of the whole space, rather than just being, you know, people standing in front of a set.
And here we see Hunter trying to get a dig in at Sakaris, and as per usual, Sakaris just turns it back around on him. Good old Hunter, always the straight man.
Commander, what do you make of the forehead?
Yep, there it goes.
Not much.
And now a completely physical set.
I like the light. Again, I like the lighting in this area. I wish we could have shot this in HD, because I think we would have benefited from that.
These extra lines only appear on the foreheads of the torture.
You're right.
But you know, for what it is, for the equipment we had, I love the
Do
little
we have
animatic from John Carling there. He did some great work on some of these graphics.
Do we have an effect shot?
We might. Yes, we do. Here come again, John Carling at work there. Love that shot.
You could say that. If I made the connection between yourself and Professor
And here we meet Alan Johnston as our bad guy of the week. He did great here, actually. This was the first thing Alan did for... Actually, no, it was the second. Alan actually played one of the bad guys in Transitions and Lamentations. In the opening scene, he's one of the guys that gets shot by Navarre. On the basis of that, I thought he'd be good for this. And he does some... He's really good in this.
I think it's quite appropriate.
This scene was hell. This was the last scene we shot.
Please continue.
We shot about 20 pages of this and all of Giles' stuff over a 3-day weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this was the last scene we shot. It was...
It's
Seven
one
or-
of these
it
things
was-
that sometimes an actor
Yeah.
can just breeze through all their lines.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a bit patchy, and then we get days like
Well,
this.
this was...
Everyone was quite tired.
It was basically the last thing we shot, and it was about 6 or 7 o'clock on a Sunday night towards the end of the shoot.
Yeah. We
I think we were
needed
all
a lot
struggling.
of coaching.
Giles had some pretty heavy, very explanatory lines here. I mean, basically he was telling us what's going on, and there's some pretty long, complex lines here. We ended up cutting a lot of the dialogue on this scene down, quite a lot on... I mean, I was sitting there with a pen, putting through lines, shortening lines, tweaking them slightly as we were going. There's a couple of things Giles is reading off screen, 'cause, I mean, it was difficult, and he carried, I think, the bulk of the work over the weekend. I mean, he'd had a lot of stuff, and Giles himself would probably say he's not an actor as well, but he carried a lot of the weight of what we were doing over the weekend. So I mean, he was tired, he was pretty worn out. Again, we'd sound problems, so we ended up having to ADR the whole thing. But the scene as it stands, or the scene you're seeing here, is very much abbreviated from what was written. And I think to the benefit, I think it probably went on too long. And I think what we ended up with really gets the information across we needed to.
Now, here's a new thing.
Yeah.
Previously, we've had green screen on the walls, but first time we've had green screen on the floor.
And again, John Carling. I think there were a couple of takes on this, because originally it was a solid floor, and you'd said you wanted kind of a grill.
Yeah.
So John had a couple of passes.
Yeah,
and I
just to
think it
sell
worked very
that,
well.
you know, otherness,
Yeah.
you know, the alien, well,
Just-
not alien,
yeah.
online spacecraft.
Just wanted to say, we did actually tie Lucy up for this, which
Was that's cable
that is
ties
those are cable ties on her hands.
that you just happen to have.
That I just happen to have. I've got cable ties in my grip kit. Yeah, 24th century restraint devices, you know, cable ties.
But I think it's interesting,
Entering orbit.
with Stone Unturned, there was a lot of things that we were trying that we hadn't tried before. You know, trying to push it.
I love this
A
shot
bit further.
actually. This is a great angle.
Yeah, well, that's an example of the the depth of field. You know, sort of slight light focus in the foreground, focus on Hunter.
Fat Hunter.
Figured.
Aye, sir.
Start deploying the sensor net.
High levels
Again, this scene was pretty much completely ADR'd.
it will be difficult to beam down.
There's probably
Impossible to
only
beam
about
out.
maybe 4 or 5 scenes that weren't ADR'd in
Land
this.
one, but it might not be possible to leave.
Then
which is quite a shock because
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of ADR.
I detest it, but then I'm not a fan of green screen or blue screen or whatever either. But,
I find that even in professional productions, I can, that's ADR, that's ADR.
Oh,
It stands out for me.
There's some scenes that are better ADR than others in here. Some are easier to match up than others, and there's a couple of scenes where I
wish I had known.
don't think it's particularly noticeable. There's some scenes, some lines where it is. And John Carling effect there. This place was actually pretty cool. This was up near Dunkeld, near our second cave. Funnily enough, Alan's makeup went on beautifully well, but David's. I don't know whether David's ears just aren't very compatible with the ears or something, with the ear tips or something. Now, before anyone asks, that is not a piece of duct tape on his sleeve there. That is a Romulan comm badge. People have said this. Oh, he's got duct tape on his sleeve. It's a comm badge. The Romulans wore their comm badges on their sleeves, not the emblem on their chest. Pattern has this here.
This is an example of, you know, myself and Nick, we do mostly get along, but sometimes we disagree about a lot of stuff. And I was pushing for having, you know, little flashing indicators on one of the lights to show that Kate had done something.
I actually didn't care.
I don't care.
Well, yeah, in general, you know, okay, maybe
My
not
response
this
was that I
particular
don't care. I don't
instance.
think it matters. But yeah, I didn't really have a dog in that fight. That particular, those pattern enhancers were built by David Reed, by the way. He did a great job with those.
Status.
I've only completed 2% of the planetary survey. You'll have to be patient.
And I'm starting to see kind of the barriers breaking down between Picard and Hunter quite well here. Interestingly, Giles Aston is actually is over 6 foot tall, whereas Patrick Stewart's about my height. Which leads to the fact that Hunter looks to be about 4'3" in this. But you know,
Okay, this is my favourite.
I
shot.
love this shot.
It's just such a fantastic location, you know, and it was the right time of year to have that stream in the background.
And
Any other time, it
yeah.
would have been gone.
That little panel on the rock there, that was David Reed built that. I think it looks fantastic. I've still got that actually.
Yeah, you know, the lighting, the performances, just everything just seemed to come together.
We were lucky with that spot. We really were. Myron Stapleton gave us that disruptor pistol there. It was quite a late minute addition. So the addition of the wall fading away there was actually a late thing as well, because originally we weren't going to put that in, but I think we decided we needed something to show that something had happened there.
Yeah, I mean, these things aren't always obvious from the script, or even once we filmed them. It's only once it's put together.
I think originally-
it's through needs something.
As well, we'd shot it from the other side, because we were thinking about putting the door in.
Actually, we shot it from the front, from the back. We even climbed up, to the top
That's
of that
right,
cave.
I've
and,
got that
shot
footage.
down the way.
Now this, I love this, again in a cave. We've got a thing about caves. I'm writing something else at the moment that's actually got caves in as well, which, I don't know, must be an obsession of mine.
Just as I'd expected.
I think Alan really sells this here, and Lucy's actually
No.
does a pretty good job of looking
Picard.
as she should in this.
Ah, fantastic.
Again, John Carling.
Now that I have this, I don't need.
We don't have many effects like that, but where we do the
Oh,
kind.
you have an interesting story about this
Oh,
one.
now this is... Ha!
Lucy did
tripped.
actually fall there.
She tripped on one of the shots, and it's like, oh, brilliant, let's keep it in. And unfortunately, that didn't fit in with the rest of the footage, which is something only discovered once we'd all got back. So I actually composited 2 separate shots together, moved something 4 seconds along the timeline, drew a line between them, patched it together, and it looks like Alan's coming out at the same time as Lucy trips, which adds to the
After all these years,
the feel of and the flow of the action.
living like an animal.
But it was something not obvious again until it was actually put together and done.
And just John Carling in it beside David Reed there. John who put that phaser effect in, by the way. Of course, Cade can't leave the artifact alone. To hell with the Romulan, don't care about him, give me the artifact. So David Reed wasn't actually present for this scene because he'd already left at that point. We actually shot his bit of this, some months later.
So the magic of having a standing set, and
Yeah.
clever editing. Well, in this case, not that clever editing, but
Permission to be excused.
Somewhere you need to be.
weeks later,
Please hold.
weeks earlier.
Yeah. I mean, this is another scene that was really problematic because again, it's a very, very. There's a lot of talking heads in this scene.
The subjects weren't
I don't think it works out nearly as well as it could have done.
I don't understand.
There's things I would like to do to this scene if we ever got the chance. I mean, maybe we should still do. I'd still love to do a couple of pickup shots for this, for something. But you know, it does the job. Lucy was struggling by this time as well, and she had a horrible screed of dialogue in this to get across. She really was struggling. Actually, this must have been the last scene we shot.
It would have been
Because-
close to it, certainly.
Because David was there for the other one. But, oh, mind you, we did a lot of jar stuff in close-up, didn't we?
It's a definite possibility, but without the final glyph stone, we'll never know.
But the scene following this,
The Klingons were to learn of this.
I think. Oh no, the two scenes following this.
Are very good.
Yeah. If you're going to have good scenes in your production, make sure they're either at the start
Or at the end. Yeah.
In the middle, yeah,
I
not,
think
not,
we're
not so
lucky.
important.
The other thing, actually, is worth mentioning Rick Forster again. Foster? Rick, again,
For his
because
lighting setup.
his lighting setup, I mean, we suck at lighting, and Rick really put some magic in
if
here
the
with
lighting looks
There's
good-
the phaser again.
Then it's Rick. If
Yeah.
it looks bad, then it was us.
Yeah.
Effectively.
And there's the Enterprise. Yes, we are aware that it looks smaller than Intrepid, but, you know,
It's further away.
it's further away.
Now, I think this is my
This is a great scene.
This is one of my favourites, and actually, you know, Nick was saying about favourite moment in all of Intrepid. My favourite moment in all of Intrepid is in the middle of this scene.
This is more than just a friendly visit.
Just the Lucy's reaction, just the angle that we filmed it at, the lighting, the mood
Lucy,
of the piece.
Lucy really I mean, the lighting here helps a lot as well. Lucy does actually really sell this scene, and she's usually very down on herself when it comes to acting, but she really does help sell this scene. I don't know what she was tapping into
it's
here,
all
but
for
it
naught
worked.
unless you've got the emotion.
I love the fact we've
behind
got
it.
books down there, we've got pads down there. I mean, this is why I love physical sets far more than green screen, because it just looks good. It looks great. We can have all this set dressing. There's Alan de Mol, our Belgian Klingon. Sadly, no longer with us because he's gone off to Canada.
I think CG sets look better than physical sets, but it depends on what you're doing with them.
It depends on what you're doing with them, yeah.
Because with the CG sets, it's harder to do lighting on the characters
Yeah.
without a great deal more effort. This moment right here, that is my favourite moment in all of Intrepid.
That prop's actually the standoff for one of my Enterprise models. It's a standoff, a dinky Enterprise. It flashes. We just thought, yeah, that'll work, and grabbed it off a shelf somewhere. Councillor Nick Beckwith, who we haven't seen that much. Oh, this scene. Alan.
Now, the very
Great
last
in this
part,
scene.
I cannot for the life of me remember whether it was Rick that suggested it. Because, you know, you're pulling out on the camera, pulling away, and then just right at the end, which was actually different from the script slightly. Because we're going to be focusing on David.
And we did
But-
shoot that.
And whoever it was had the idea, I think it was Rick, maybe it was me, I'm not sure. Just hand at the end, clench, and we're done.
Yeah. I mean, I think that does work better. Yeah, you could make it work with showing cutting to David and that, but yeah, Rick Forster, there we go. It would certainly, I think it has more effect not doing that. So yay, credits.
Yeah, and this
Yeah,
is what
story
it
and tell
takes.
side by
Loads of
Brian S.
people.
Matthew, Lee Andrew. Lee Andrew did all our sound effects, but he also did a lot of the visual effects. He's been with us pretty much since the beginning, and a lot of the stuff we probably couldn't have done without him. Rick Foster there, who did all our lighting for this one, especially on the physical sets. Everybody does Boom. We've probably missed somebody off on that. Video editing, Steve Hammond.
Yeah, hi.
Andy
I do a
Booze.
few
Andy
things.
Booze. That's the guy that did the MSD. Hi Andy, you're probably not listening to this, but thank you. John Carling did all the compositing and our wonderful title sequence. Theme by Dylan Feeney. Best Star Trek theme ever.
Props to Nick and from Nick.
There's a guy, but Peter Waters, who's a guy in London, who's actually sent us quite a lot of props and has helped us out on and off over the time. Doesn't get enough credit, actually.
Now, I'm in there as a 3D artist, but I can't remember
I have no
what
idea.
I did for it. I mean, I did do things for previous episodes, but in this
Catering.
case,
Admiral Prentice was our caterer. Starship Farragut, Hidden Frontier. You know, we had a lot of help from HF over the years, and certainly the Farragut guys have been helpful to us. And yay, we're done. Thank you for listening,
Yeah,
guys,
yeah, thank you.
and good night.